It's early January 2021, and as of right now, I'm hitting the highway. I spent the holidays back east visiting family while my Jeep got worked on in Prescott, Arizona. I've got about 2,000 miles between me and the Jeep, so I'm going to go inside, plot a route, and put the Revel through its paces. I've been bouncing back and forth across the country a lot this past holiday season, once in November and again in December. The past couple times I've traversed the country using Interstate 80, which passes farther to the north, just south of the Great Lakes. And what I found was, once you get east of Nebraska, through Iowa and all the way into Pennsylvania, there are relatively few boondocking or discreet camping opportunities. Now, a little bit farther south, I-70 runs parallel to I-80, and you can get from Pennsylvania to around Denver in approximately the same amount of time. Now, I-70 is still a major thoroughfare and really doesn't look that much different than I-80, but I have found that it's slightly easier to find a place to spend the night along I-70, whether you're just stopping for some shut-eye or you want to wander away from the highway a little bit. Now, I'm about to get onto the Pennsylvania Turnpike and head west, but I think instead of taking I-80 or I-70 this time, I'm going to dip a little bit farther south onto I-79 and pass through the edge of West Virginia and into Kentucky. It passes close to Monongahela in West Virginia and also Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. Alright, it's 10 a.m. I'd like to get about 8 hours of driving in today and find a decent place to spend the night, so I better get moving.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto the Pennsylvania Turnpike ramp. Continue on I-76 west for 121 miles.
Despite outward appearances, the Revel isn't really that flattering to drive, at least on the highway. The ride is soft enough, and I like how tall that I sit. The issue I mainly have is just how cavernous and echoey it is. Don't take that as a complaint, it's more of an observation, because I knew full well that I was getting into a lifestyle adventure vehicle. Those creaks and squeaks and clunking around that I hear back there are things that we can iron out over time. It is just a tad loud in here though, and if you're riding with someone, I find that you have to raise your voice just a little bit to have a conversation, like I'm doing with you now. Well, I got the van stuck already. I am in West Virginia on a very familiar forest road going to a familiar campsite in a completely unfamiliar vehicle. And I was too close to the edge trying to go around this puddle, and I got sucked off to the side, and now the passenger side is in soft mud. It's 5:14 p.m. on Monday. I'm losing daylight. I'm going to see what I can do by myself really quick, just maybe try to clear a little bit of mud, evaluate the situation, but I am probably going to end up calling for help. And I've got cell service, so everything will be fine, but frustrating. I wasn't remotely this far over to the side when it initially happened. As I tried to extract myself by going forward and backward, the van slid farther into the shoulder. That tailpipe and the running board that I was talking about is absolutely buried. I got the van to move, so all is not lost. I'm still in the shoulder, but I'm out of the worst of it. I filled the ditch in front of the van with a firm bed of logs and deadfall. And if I can crawl forward just 5 feet, I can get the passenger side front up onto here. The driver's side tires are both on terra firma. That only leaves the passenger side rear dragging through the muck. If I can get 3 out of 4 with traction, I should be able to crawl back up onto the road. These sticks don't look like much, and they aren't. They're going to break under the tires, but all we want to do is just give the ground some texture, and then we'll have traction. My heart's beating a little bit. I was extremely close to having to make a phone call. It looks like the cap for the compartment for the gray water drain hose was damaged when I tried to back up through the mud, but that appears to be it. After encountering the fallen tree, I backtracked about a mile, and I found this perfect van-sized flat spot at the side of the forest road. Perfect place to spend the night. This isn't where I plan to spend the night, but that is perfectly fine. I'm just happy that I was able to get the van out of the mud, and by the time I got out, I was ready to call it a night anyway. Speaking of getting out of the mud, it was my mistake that I ended up in there in the first place, but I am genuinely impressed by the van and how it managed to get out of there under its own power. Of course, I did have to add some traction, but even still, the whole passenger side of the van was swamped. I've only just begun acquainting myself with the four-wheel drive capability of this thing, and Tonight, I was impressed. But anyway, I'm in Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia, in an area that I'm extremely familiar with. I've been coming here to explore for about a decade now. But I am just passing through as I travel west. I wanted to break up some of the highway driving with some backcountry scenery and exploration, so that was my goal for today. Got a little bit more than I bargained for, but some valuable experience with the van for sure. This is shoo-fly pie, and my mom makes it on occasion for me when I visit back home. It is a Pennsylvania Dutch recipe that consists of molasses crumb pie, so it's mostly just brown sugar in the form of a pie. Thanks, Mom. Tip Top Coffee in Thomas, West Virginia is one of my all-time favorite coffee shops. I haven't been in there in well over a year, and it's sad to see that there's no indoor seating currently because of circumstances. The coffee is still tip-top. I started the day in West Virginia, made it all the way through Kentucky, and now I'm on I-64 West in Indiana. It's 4 o'clock p.m. and I'm losing daylight fast, so it's time to start thinking about a place to spend the night. In about 20 miles, I'm going to exit the highway and head into Hoosier National Forest. It doesn't look like I've got a big parcel to work with, so I don't know what I'm going to find. I'm either going to end up spending the night in a Walmart parking lot, fee campground, or with any luck I'll find a nice dispersed site somewhere. It's a fee campground, but it's right off the interstate, and if I'm reading the sign correctly, off-season it's only $5 a night for a non-electrical site and $10 a night with electrical hookups. This is great. This will be perfect for the night. I very rarely use paper checks for anything, but they are particularly handy for U.S. Forest Service campsites if you don't happen to have a $5 bill on hand. I started this morning in Thomas, West Virginia. That's this green track. And then I stopped for gas in Huntington. Drove all the way through Kentucky. That's this yellow track. And then I got gas again west of Louisville. And now I'm in Hoosier National Forest in Indiana. I want to take a moment to reiterate and clarify the role of the new van in my videos for Venture Forward. Since I'm featuring the van in the first episodes of 2021, and right now it's all that you're seeing, I don't want there to be a misconception that I have switched from the Jeep to the van. That is not the case, because RNG, my beloved Jeep, is going to continue to be my main vehicle and the centerpiece for the video series for the foreseeable future. Then what's the van all about? I got the van for a combination of reasons. Number one, I've always wanted something like this. A home on wheels that checks all the boxes and has all the things that you might have in a house or an apartment, but also has decent four-wheel drive capability. RNG, of course, serves a similar purpose, but has a bias toward mobility, whereas this has a bias toward living comfort. Second, with my relationship, my lovely girlfriend and I want to travel together, but we have different work requirements. She's able to be mobile, but she needs connectivity most of the time. I tend to go off-grid for the better part of the week, and connectivity is scarce. So having two vehicles, one of which suits both of our needs, gives us a place to be together at the end of the day or at the end of the week. And finally, the last reason that I got this vehicle was to serve as a studio or a mobile office where I could sit down and edit video on my computer at the end of the week. That's the purpose of the Revel, to play more of a support role for Venture Forward. So when I finally get to Prescott, I'm going to resume traveling in my orange Jeep and focus on experiences mainly in that vehicle, just like I always have. However, I'm still really excited about this van. It will be making appearances from time to time. I want to share the improvements that we make, modifications, and how well it works in the field, but not as the focus of Venture Forward, more like a supporting character. "700 miles later, I found this car wash in Missouri where I can finally clean up this mess. I'm in Mark Twain National Forest near Van Buren, Missouri, and I'm traveling down a pristine forest road lined with these excellent boondocking sites. There's plenty of great spots for dispersed camping, but I cross into another time zone, so it's only 1:30 p.m. I'm going to keep exploring, but I don't think I'm going to have any trouble finding a place to spend the night. Those are proximity alarms. The van has sensors all around it that tell you when you're getting close to things. And it's usually just deadfall. There's a moth in here. Oi! Oi! The van's a lot more of a squeeze than RNG, but it's still small enough and capable enough to go well off the beaten path. Sorry, paint job. Here's a decent campsite right here. Well, I passed up a lot of really good dispersed sites, but I was looking at my map and I was hoping to get a campsite down by the river. So I came to scout out this Forest Service campground, and it's free right now this time of year because it's off season. But unfortunately, the campsites are not along the water, and that's okay. I'm going to spend the night here anyway because it's 4:30 p.m. and I'm running out of daylight. The river truly is this green. It's beautiful. Missouri. After a good night's sleep at the campground, I hit the road, and I am now in West Plains, Missouri. I got coffee at a coffee shop called 1040, and now I'm figuring out my next moves. First and foremost, I need to get some more DEF fluid for the van. That's diesel exhaust fluid. It's an emissions additive, I think, and I'm supposed to replenish it every 2,000 miles or so. When the depth gauge is half full, it takes about a 2.5 gallon carton to top it back off again. And this carton costs about $15 from what I've found so far. I should really be driving because I haven't made much progress west in the past few days. But Mark Twain National Forest is proving to be extremely beautiful, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to go on at least one hardy hike. It's a natural spring, but it's not hot. This is beautiful. I started my hike with blue skies and sunshine, and now the clouds rolled in, the wind picked up, and it is chilly and overcast. It's another 2 or 2.5 miles back to the van, and I don't know if we're supposed to get any precipitation, but I don't have the gear for it, so I'm gonna hustle. On that note, I'm gonna call it a wrap for the week. I was expecting to be a lot farther across the country by now, but I saw Mark Twain National Forest, and I haven't spent much time here, so I made a detour. But I have a long way to go. Next week, I have dental cleaning in Colorado, and then from there, I want to get back to Prescott. I'm not gonna record the trip to the dentist's office. That's not good content. But tomorrow I'm going to find a place to sit down in the van and knock out this episode that you're watching now, probably at a rest stop or maybe a Walmart parking lot. And then after I get this published, over the weekend I'm going to hit the highway again and double time it west. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon.